Logan's POV, I could barely breathe. From the moment Zuria dropped to her knees, then rose into the towering glory of her lichen form, I forgot how to inhale. My chest swelled with something I'd never quite felt before, not just pride, not just love. It was reverence. Awe. As if I were watching the moon kiss the earth. She did it. She stood, her form magnificent and wild. Every fiber of her being glowed with ancestral power, her golden-streaked fur catching the morning light. Ileana, the wolf, the guardian, the soul, stood tall. Beside her, Dante, Camilla, and Naima flanked her like titans. For lichens. Maddox stepped up beside me, eyes wide, lips slightly parted. "Did you feel that?" he asked over the mind link. "I felt the ground tremble," Cade responded. "Shadowfang isn't just a formidable pack anymore," Nicholas added. "We're a force of nature." I couldn't stop staring at her. "Zuria. My mate. My Luna." She threw back her head and howled. The sound was beautiful, terrifying and exhilarating. I felt Jackson stirring with excitement, nearly howling in return. In that moment, the crowd surrounding the training circle erupted in cheers. Wolves shifted to celebrate. Many knelt in awe, and I stepped forward, unable to resist her any longer. She turned her glowing amber eyes toward me, and through the towering might of her lichen form, I saw Zuria. And I loved her more than I ever thought possible. That night, after the pack had finally gone quiet and the stars claimed the sky, Zuria and I retreated to our bedroom. She stood by the open balcony doors, moonlight painting her bare shoulders. I walked up behind her and wrapped my arms around her waist. "You were incredible today," I whispered. She leaned back into my chest. "I still feel it in my bones. Like fire. But not burning this time. Just alive." I turned her gently to face me. "What does it feel like? When you shift?" She smiled, a dreamy, faraway look softening her eyes. "It's like unzipping my skin and letting my soul breathe. Like every part of me stretches toward the stars and roots into the earth all at once. There's a freedom in it, a wild, untamed joy." Jackson purred with pride in my mind, his energy vibrating with delight. "You're breathtaking," I told her. "Every shift, every damn inch of you." Her cheeks flushed, but she didn't look away. I lifted her chin. Our lips met slowly. Soft at first, then growing deeper, needier. My hand slipped down her waist, pulling her closer. She sighed into my mouth, her body relaxing into mine like it was molded to fit. I guided her to the bed. We undressed each other without haste, every movement deliberate. She straddled me, her hair tumbling around her shoulders, and I kissed the pulse at her throat. Her hands skimmed over my chest, her fingers tracing every scar, every line. "You ground me, Logan, even when I'm howling inside. And you ignite me," I said, my voice rough with need. "The things you make me feel." We made love slowly, our bodies moving like poetry. Cade's POV weeks had passed and Shadowfang had never felt more alive. The air vibrated with renewed purpose. Warriors trained harder, the children at the orphanage were thriving, and there was a hum of peace that rolled across the territory like morning mist. But inside me it was chaos. Everyone was moving forward. Except me. I watched her from a distance, always from a distance. Camilla Vellerin. She had this calm energy about her that stilled the most restless parts of my soul. I didn't even know when it started, this quiet obsession. Maybe it was the first time I saw her coax a frightened child into reading aloud. Maybe it was how she carried herself with a quiet strength, a woman who had lived in shadows and yet still offered light. Or maybe it was the day I saw her shift. Her dire wolf form had my heart stuttering in my chest, but when she transformed into her lichen, something inside me shifted. My wolf rook surged forward and growled one word, "Mate." I wasn't sure if that was true, but damn if it didn't feel that way. Since then, I volunteered for patrol near the orphanage. I convinced myself it was for security, that the children needed protection. But really, I just wanted to see her. When she walked the trail back to the pack house, I would linger in the woods, stealing glimpses like a fool. Nicholas noticed first. Of course he did. Just talk to her, you idiot, he'd mutter. But I didn't. What if I ruined it? What if she didn't feel the same? I'd rather be silent than shatter something beautiful. So I watched and wanted, and said nothing. Rook wasn't as patient. She smiles and you do nothing, he growled one night. How are you a fierce warrior but act like a pup when it comes to her? I grunted. You're not helping. I'm not here to help. I'm here to push you toward what we both want. The day everything changed started in Alpha Logan's office. Maddox was leaning back in the leather chair, arms folded behind his head. Nicholas stood near the window, his eyes flicking lazily over the trees. Theron, as always, had a cup of coffee in hand. Alpha Logan reviewed logistics on his tablet. The gala is in 3 months, Maddox said, setting the tone. Logan nodded. Shadowfang will attend. This is our chance to present Zuria formally as Luna. The room stilled with unspoken tension. Security needs to be tight, Logan added. We're leaving our territory. Zuria and her family are still being hunted. We cannot afford a mistake. We'll handle it, Nicholas replied. The gala will be locked down. Just then a knock echoed at the door. Come in, Logan called. Camilla stepped inside, holding a folder in one hand and a soft smile on her face. My breath caught. Goddess, that smile could end wars. Alpha Logan, she said. I wanted to follow up on the supply list I sent for the orphanage. Logan set his tablet down. Already approved. The delivery should arrive in 3 days. She beamed. Fuck. My heart thumped like an idiot. Also, Logan continued, we were just discussing the gala. Would you be interested in attending? Camilla blinked, clearly surprised. I'd love to, but I don't have a date. Before she could finish, I blurted out, I'd be honored if you would be my date. The room fell silent. Theron nearly choked on his coffee. Maddox stared like I'd grown 2 heads. Logan raised a brow. Nicholas was grinning like the devil. Camilla tilted her head, clearly amused. I would be happy to be your +1, Cade. She winked before leaving the room. The door barely closed before all hell broke loose. What was that? Maddox demanded. So it's true? You like Camilla? Theron exclaimed. Nicholas couldn't stop laughing. I told you he had it bad. How long has this been going on? Logan asked, clearly entertained. I buried my face in my hands. I don't know. Months, maybe. You've been stalking her like a teenage wolf with a crush, Nicholas teased. So what happens now? Logan asked. I looked at all of them. My brothers. My pack. Now I stop being a stalker and actually have a conversation with her. Rook growled in agreement. Camilla's POV as the door to Alpha Logan's office closed behind me. I let out a quiet breath and allowed a smile to spread across my face. I couldn't believe Cade had finally spoken up. After all this time of sneaky glances, silent patrols, and not-so-subtle hovering around the orphanage, he had finally taken the plunge. Did he think I hadn't noticed? Please, I muttered to myself as I walked down the hallway, my heels clicking softly against the stone. As if I wouldn't recognize the scent of a wolf who's always near. My wolf, Seraphina, chuckled from within. He's adorable. Kind of like a lost pup following you around. More like a 6'4" elite warrior trying to pretend he's invisible, I replied with a smirk. Still adorable, Seraphina insisted. I chuckled aloud. The truth was, I'd noticed everything. How he always managed to be nearby when I left the orphanage. How his eyes lingered a little longer than most. How he looked away quickly when I caught him staring. It was sweet. And kind of endearing. Like he didn't quite know what to do with himself. Today, though. Today he surprised me. That moment, his voice cutting through the room, offering to be my date, it made something flutter in my chest. I glanced over my shoulder before turning the corner, replaying it all again. The way he blushed when I winked at him. He looked like a ripened tomato. He's got it bad, Seraphina hummed. I know, I whispered. So what now? Now we see if he has the nerve to actually ask me on a proper date, or if he is going to continue being a stalker. Seraphina snorted. You should ask him instead. Oh no. I already made the first move by accepting the invitation. If he wants more, he's going to have to put that big warrior mouth of his to use. That mouth could be put to lots of good uses, Serafina purred suggestively. Oh goddess, I groaned, cheeks warming. You're impossible. Still, I couldn't stop smiling. Cade's POV later that evening, I stood outside the orphanage, hands shoved deep in my jacket pockets, trying to look casual. Rook was pacing in my head like a caged animal. She's coming. Don't mess this up. I'm not gonna mess this up, I muttered under my breath, though my palms were sweating. The door opened. There she was. Camilla stepped out, slinging her bag over her shoulder, eyes catching mine. She was radiant in that soft golden hour light, hair loose around her shoulders, wearing that calm, graceful smile that made my heart hammer like I'd just finished a 10-mile run. Hey, Camilla. Would you? Could I walk you home? She smiled gently. Of course, Cade. I'd like that. We walked slowly down the trail lit by low lanterns. It was quiet but not awkward. Just peaceful. Like being in the eye of a storm that had finally settled. I chanced a glance at her and nearly stumbled over a root. So, I said after a beat, what kind of foods do you like? I mean for fun. I mean not that food is fun. She laughed. Goddess, that laugh. I love seafood, she said. Especially scallops. And lamb stew. I also adore fresh bread with herbed butter. And for dessert, peach cobbler. I grinned. Noted. What about hobbies? I know I was rambling. I must have sounded like a teenager trying to talk to his first crush. Reading, hiking. I used to play piano when I was younger. Haven't in years, though. Would you go on a date with me? A proper one. 2 nights from now. I blurted out. I could feel Rook roll his eyes. Real smooth, cowboy. Real smooth. She nodded. Yes. I'd love to. Date night arrived. I waited in the lobby of her apartment building, adjusting my shirt collar for the millionth time. My palms sweaty. My heart was in my throat. When Camilla appeared, time stopped. She wore fitted jeans that hugged her curves and a cream off-shoulder sweater that exposed her warm chocolate skin. Her hair framed her face in soft waves. She was stunning. You look soft. I mean, you look beautiful, I said. She smiled. Thank you, Cade. You clean up well, too. I opened the car door for her, my hand briefly brushing hers. Sparks. Our first stop was the Ashen Gallery. She admitted she read about it but never visited. The artwork was stunning, shadow and color dancing across canvas. The Ashen Gallery was a moody museum tucked in the historic district. The paintings were intense, bold strokes and whispered shadows. Camilla wandered from piece to piece like she was tasting each one. This one, she whispered in front of a large abstract swirl of dark blues and purples, reminds me of a dream I used to have. I stood beside her. Good dream or bad? Good, she replied. I didn't say anything. Just let my fingers rest gently on the small of her back. She leaned into it. We walked through sculptures and shadow-lit paintings, her eyes glowing with curiosity. Dinner was at Salt and Ember, a rustic seafood restaurant on the pier. So you remembered, she said. What she didn't know was I'd called ahead to make sure they had her favorite dishes. She ordered the seared scallops with herbed risotto. I had lamb stew. I grinned. Of course I did. I've been paying attention. Her eyes softened. Talking to her was easy, her voice soft. Still a bit nervous, I felt a sense of ease with her. After dinner, I took her to one more place. Seattle Central Library, the historic landmark. But not just the public section. I arranged access to a private archive off-limits to most. We were led through a side entrance to a private archive room. She froze when we entered the room of rare manuscripts. How did you? She started, mouth still open in awe. I asked around. Pulled a few strings. Thought you'd like it. She turned to me, eyes wet. This is perfect. I love it. Her breath caught. We wandered through leather-bound books, first editions, and rare manuscripts. Her joy was infectious. On the drive back, rain misted the windows. The city smelled like earth and cedar. She leaned her head against the seat. Thank you, Cade. This was an amazing date. I glanced at her, heart full. You're welcome, Camilla. I'd love to do it again. Hopefully, next time I won't be as nervous. Her fingers found mine, and we held hands all the way back to Shadowfong. At her apartment door, I hesitated. Would you like to come in for a cup of tea? She asked. I hesitated. Not because I didn't want to go in. Hell, I did. I wanted to see her space, wanted to know what kind of books were stacked by her bed, what her favorite mug looked like, whether she curled up on the couch with a blanket or sat at the kitchen table like the academic I suspected she was. But stepping through that threshold, her threshold, meant stepping into something that couldn't be taken back. I exhaled sharply. Camilla, if I come in, I can't guarantee I'll still be a gentleman. Her lips twitched in amusement. Fair enough. But then she leaned in and kissed me. Slowly. Softly. Her lips were like fire and velvet. I groaned into it, barely restraining myself. When she pulled back, I was dizzy. Camilla, I murmured, voice low and rough, you're not making this easy for me. She chuckled, brushing a hand across my jaw. Good. Then she turned and stepped inside. I stood there for a moment, trying to gather my senses. Rook was howling in approval. She wants us. She kissed us. I grinned while driving back to the pack house, my heart full, my wolf satisfied for now. Camilla's POV. The walk back to my apartment on pack grounds felt like floating. Cade didn't say much, but he kept glancing at me with this half-smile that made my stomach flutter. The rain had eased into a quiet drizzle, misting the air with petrichor and softening the sharp edges of the night. When we reached my building, we stopped at my front door. Well, I said softly, turning toward him. Thank you, Cade. That was one of the best nights I've had in a long time. He rubbed the back of his neck and looked at me. I'm glad you had a good time. I tilted my head. Would you like to come in for a cup of tea? His breath caught, barely audible, and then his eyes darkened just slightly. Camilla, he said, voice low. If I come in, I can't guarantee I'll still be a gentleman. My lips curled. Oh! I studied him, amused and touched by his restraint. That's fair, I said, trying not to sound as disappointed as Serafina felt inside me. Get him to come in, my wolf grumbled. Let him see how soft our skin is under this sweater. Hush, I told her. He's being respectful. He's being frustrating, she huffed. I stepped closer, closing the small space between us. Cade's shoulders stiffened slightly. I could feel the tension in his body, as if it radiated off him in waves. I reached up and cupped the side of his face, dragging my thumb lightly across the edge of his jaw. Well, I respect your wishes, I said, letting my voice drop to a teasing whisper. But I should at least say thank you properly. Then I kissed him. Not a soft peck. No, this was something else. I lingered. Let my lips mold to his. Let the heat in my chest travel through the connection of that kiss. He groaned softly, his hands tightening into fists at his sides, clearly trying not to touch me. But when I lightly nipped his bottom lip, he gave in just for a second. His lips parting and meeting mine in return with a hunger that nearly had me dragging him inside by the collar. My heart pounded and Serafina purred. More, she whispered. Tell him to come inside. Now. When I finally pulled back, he looked wrecked. His chest rose and fell like he'd been running, and his eyes burned with desire. Camilla, he growled, voice thick with restraint. You are not making this easy for me. I laughed softly and winked. Good. His ears turned red. I nearly melted on the spot. Cade let out a breath, then leaned forward, pressing a kiss to my forehead that made my chest ache in the sweetest way. I'll meet you tomorrow morning downstairs, he said gently. To walk you to the orphanage. I nodded, lips still tingling. Good night, Cade. Good night, Camilla. When I stepped into the apartment, I leaned my back against the door and closed my eyes. The warmth from that kiss still radiated through me. I exhaled slowly, a dreamy smile spreading across my face. That was. I whispered to no one. Delicious, Serafina finished. I laughed. He's sweet. And respectful. He's hot. And huge. Serafina. I'm just saying, you wanted him to come in too. I rolled my eyes, pulling off my boots. You're not wrong. I wandered into the small kitchenette, filled the kettle, and stood by the window as it began to steam. My fingertips brushed across my lips. That man kissed like he wanted to remember it for the rest of his life. Tender but hungry. Patient but barely. No one had ever made me feel like this. Tonight, he didn't just open doors and remember my favorite foods. He gave me memories. Quiet, beautiful moments. The museum, the dinner, the library. Goddess, the library. I could have spent hours in that private archive room, and he stood there letting me gush over books like it was the most beautiful thing he'd ever seen. And the way he looked at me like I was the treasure, not the pages. My kettle clicked off. I poured the tea, then sat on my couch, clutching the mug to my chest. He's ours, Serafina whispered more gently now. He just doesn't know it yet. No, I murmured with a soft smile. I think he's starting to. Cade's POV after one of our quiet, lingering dates, where Camilla had smiled just a little longer and leaned a little closer. She invited me up to her apartment. There was something in her eyes when she said it. Desire. The kind of desire that said I want you. And I nearly lost control of myself right then. As soon as the door closed behind us, I turned and pulled her in fast. My hand gripped her wrist gently but firmly as I backed her inside, then kicked the door shut with a thud that echoed through the quiet space. She flinched at the sound. Not because she feared me, but because she wasn't expecting the shift. Neither was I. But it was already too late. The wolf in me, Rook, had had enough of restraint. Enough of watching. Enough of patience. And tonight, Camilla will experience when restraint is no more. I pressed her back against the door, my hands bracing on either side of her head. My body molded to hers, heat meeting heat, and something primal in me growled at how perfectly we fit. Her breath hitched. A small sound. It wasn't fear. It was tension. Hunger. I saw it bloom across her face just as her scent shifted in the air. My eyes locked onto hers, darkened now with something feral. Rook was just beneath the surface, pacing, teeth bared. I traced her jaw with my thumb, slow and deliberate, watching her shudder from the touch. Goddess, she was beautiful. Vulnerable and brave at once, standing in the eye of the storm with her chin tilted up. My gaze roamed her face, drinking her in. And then I kissed her. Hard and possessive. My mouth crashed into hers, claiming, demanding, asking nothing but offering everything. Her lips parted beneath mine with a soft gasp, and I took full advantage, my tongue slipping into her mouth, tasting her, learning her. She melted and her arms wrapped around my neck and pulled me closer. It wasn't hesitation. It was the shock of being wanted like this. And damn, I wanted her. The kiss deepened. Sloppy, hungry, too much and still not enough. I tangled my fingers into the curls of her hair, gripping gently as I tilted her head to take her deeper. She clung to me like I was the only thing keeping her tethered. A growl escaped me. The sound seemed to ripple through her, and then she kissed me back harder, with a desperation that matched the storm inside me. Her fingers slid into my hair, nails grazing my scalp as she pulled, gasping when our bodies aligned again. My hands slid lower, down her back, over her hips. She was soft under my palms, warm and trembling slightly. I leaned in, my lips dragging down her throat, tongue flicking over the delicate skin. She arched into me, bearing more. Rook purred in approval. My mouth worshipped every inch of her neck, lips, tongue, and teeth. I nipped and soothed, sucked gently on the hollow below her ear. Her moan was low, breathy, the kind that made blood roar in my ears. And still it wasn't enough. I reached behind her, hands sliding over the curve of her back until I found the zipper of her dress. She gasped, her forehead falling to my shoulder. "You sure?" I whispered, lips brushing her ear. Her breath was shaky. "Yes. I need you." She exhaled, shaky but sure. "I need this." That was all I needed to hear. I dragged the zipper down slowly, listening to the soft rasp of metal against fabric. Her dress slid off her shoulders like it had been waiting for this moment, pooling at her feet in a quiet hush of silk. And there she stood, pressed between me and the door, wearing only a black lace bra, matching panties, and those heels that made my hands twitch. I pulled back to look at her fully. My throat went dry. "Camilla," I breathed. "Fuck. You're beautiful." She didn't look away. Her gaze held mine, wide and unflinching. My hands found her waist, sliding slowly up her bare sides, palms hungry for the feel of her. She was warm and tense beneath my fingers, muscles twitching under each stroke. I bent my head, kissed her shoulder. Then lower. My lips worshipped the slope of her collarbone, the dip at her sternum, the trembling skin between her breasts. She moaned softly, one leg shifting like she couldn't stay still. Her fingers found my hair again just as I reached behind her, unclasping her bra with practiced ease. The lace slipped away, and she gasped when my mouth found her again. I took my time. Her skin flushed under my tongue. My hands anchored her to me as I kissed her breasts, sucking gently, then biting softly, just enough to make her arch into me. Camilla clung to me, her voice ragged as she whispered my name. My fingers brushed against her nipples and gave one a gentle pinch. I could smell her arousal. I felt her underwear dampen. "Cade," Camilla murmured as the sensations erupted inside her. I chuckled against her neck and lifted my head to stare intensely into her eyes as I pulled and pinched her nipples. A deliciously painful yet pleasurable sensation that she had never felt before. "If I didn't know better, I would think you've never been touched like this before," I murmured huskily as I pressed my lower body against her, pushing my rock-hard length against the skin of her thighs. "I haven't," she confessed. I looked at her with a serious expression, while her nipples were still between my fingers. "Are you serious?" "No one," I asked in disbelief. "No one. It was easier to keep myself away from people. No attachments. No lovers. No friends," she whispered softly as she looked up at me with those seductive eyes. Now I was worried if I'd hurt her with my size and the fact that she hadn't even been broken in down there. Chances were that this was going to be painful for her. "I can't promise that this won't hurt Camilla," I murmured softly in her ear as I continued pinching her nipples. She moaned loudly at the sensation, and it was like music to my soul. I could feel Rook straining to take over. As my cock bulged painfully, begging for the sweet release that the place between her legs would provide. "Camilla, you need to tell me if you want this or not. If we do this, there's no going back," I growled into her ear. Camilla shuddered and moved her hands down to where my cock strained desperately against my jeans. "I want this, Cade," she purred seductively between moans as she began to run her fingers across the material of my jeans. I growled as she stared intensely back into my eyes, her boldness and confidence arousing me beyond my limits. "I've wanted you for a long time, Cade. All of you." Camilla's voice, filled with a desire, almost drove me over the damn edge. I picked her up and headed over to the large bed in her bedroom. I removed my shirt and jeans. Camilla watched with a smirk. Camilla's POV, I knew Cade was big, like really big. But actually seeing him stroke himself in front of me? That was something else. My heart almost stopped at the sheer size of his cock. The entire thing looked far too wide for me to handle. My brain short-circuited. My body froze. My jaw may have dropped. It definitely dropped. I swallowed nervously as he stroked himself in front of me and Serafina whistled lowly in my head. "Well, fuck," I whispered to Serafina in an awestruck voice. "I'm not sure if we can handle all of that. This is definitely going to hurt." "Oh, my sweet moonlit ancestors," Serafina whispered in awe, her voice slack-jawed in my head. "Look at the size of that thing. That's not a dick. That's a damn abomination. He's going to break me, Serafina. This is how I die. I mean, if you gotta go, this isn't a terrible way. Just leave a note for the coroner. Tell my family I love them and I went in style. If we pass out, hopefully he will resuscitate us so we can continue. He's a gamma for sure. He's muscled and strong. What did we expect? We'll just have to suck it up, not literally, as he may crush our throat," Serafina said breathlessly. I swallowed hard, and not because I wanted to. Cade took a slow, deliberate step toward me, still stroking that thick, veiny beast like he knew what it was doing to me. "Do you think he's aware?" Serafina asked. "Do you think he's aware that this thing has its own gravitational pull?" Serafina, focus. "We need a plan. A strategy. Some emergency stretches or something." "There is no strategy. Just surrender, girl. Let the D bring doom." I nearly snorted. Right as he reached me, his hands found my breasts first. Hot, rough and eager. My back hit the bed and his mouth followed, working down my neck with ravenous worship. When his tongue found the hollow beneath my jaw, I forgot my own name. And then his cock, that cock, slid between my folds, coating itself with me. I arched with a gasp, head tossing back. "We're making noises now?" Serafina panted. "Unicorn mating noises. We're not coming back from this, you know." "Oh, I'm aware." My hands moved instinctively along his back and down his sides, reaching for him. I found him. My fingers curled around him. Correction, tried to. Couldn't fit my whole hand around it. "There will be time enough for you to learn how to handle this," he said huskily. "Okay, but hear me out," Serafina said. "Maybe if we build a small scaffolding and approach it in segments." Cade groaned when I stroked him. "You're killing me, Camilla," he rasped. I felt drunk. On him. On the heat. On the pressure building between us like a supernova. And then his fingers slipped inside me. My back arched, mouth falling open in a soundless moan. 2 fingers. Deep. Curling with precision that made me see stars. He hit a spot that made me want to explode. I clawed the sheets with my hands as his weight held me in place and stopped me from squirming too much. I gasped. "I've already left our body," Serafina whispered. "Tell my bones I loved them." His thumb rolled over my clit with maddening circles. The kind of rhythm that rewrote the alphabet in my nervous system. I reached my first orgasm at his hands. The orgasm hit hard. My legs shook. My scream echoed. I forgot how air worked. Cade didn't give me time to recover. I felt him at my entrance. The head of his cock pushed in. Slow and deliberate, like he was trying not to wreck me all at once. He needn't have worried. The wreckage was already complete. "Fuck, Camilla," he groaned. "You're so tight." "Because you, sir, are the size of a small mountain," I wanted to shout. Instead, I whimpered. Because despite the pain, despite the pressure, my body wanted it. "We can take him," Serafina said, suddenly proud. "We are warriors. Velaran goddesses. Vaginal champions of destiny." "Shut up." "He's halfway in." I yelled at Serafina. He was losing the fight against the urge to bury himself balls deep inside of me. He stilled his movements, lifting my legs a little and spreading them wider. He moved his hands to my waist. It was now or never. My eyes shut tightly and my walls pulsated around him. He pulled my waist downwards towards him as he thrust forward with all his might. Cade swallowed my scream as he felt the head of his cock slam into my cervix and smiled to himself in satisfaction. His gaze softened as he wasn't sure how to help me endure the pain with him still buried inside me. "Dear moon goddess," I can feel him in my stomach. "Is that my liver he's nudging?" My hips rocked forward on instinct. His cock slid deeper. Every inch sent another wave of pain-tinged pleasure crashing through me. My voice rose in a cry I couldn't hold back. Cade's growl vibrated against my throat as he held himself back with visible effort. He stilled, breathing hard. "You good?" I nodded, eyes closed tight. "Keep going. I can take it." He began to move inside me slowly. "I am woman, hear me roar and possibly black out," Serafina gasped. He shifted my legs, angled his hips. And then he thrust. I was panting alongside Cade as he pounded his full length into me, as each stroke had constant pressure on my G-spot. He slammed into my cervix, taking me on a roller coaster of pain and pleasure the entire time. Next thing I know, I was begging for him to bury himself inside me, deeper and harder with each powerful stroke. I screamed into his shoulder and clung to him like the world was ending. His hand returned to my clit, rubbing fiercely as he buried himself fully. Pleasure and pain braided together until I couldn't tell where one ended and the other began. I shattered again, body spasming around him. Still, he kept going. Driving into me with such strength, such intent, I felt it in my soul. I moaned loudly with a possessive snarl. Cade increased his pace to a furious speed. The loud pants and moans punctuated by the slapping of flesh until I climaxed again. "We're never walking again," Serafina said. "We'll have to get custom-wheeled transport." He growled into my ear, each thrust forcing another moan out of me. "You were made for me," he snarled. "I think you just rearranged my pancreas," I whispered. "Good. We never liked that pancreas anyway." When he finally came, he stilled deep inside me with a guttural moan and emptied his seed deep within me. I felt the heat of it. Hot, primal and possessive. He leaned down, his mouth licked the side of my neck, taking a grip on it with his teeth. His tongue swept the place where my neck met my shoulder. And I said it. "I'm yours. Mark me." His head snapped up. "Camilla, I'm yours," I said again softly. "There will be no one else but you." His eyes darkened. He bared his teeth. And he bit me. The pain was sharp, but it only lasted a second. What came after was blinding. The bond snapped into place like lightning through my bloodstream. I gasped and bit him back, right above his collarbone, where his pulse jumped against my lips. Later, his arm draped around me, heavy and warm. My body was wrecked. Thoroughly, magnificently wrecked. But I'd never felt safer. Never felt more like myself. Serafina, finally quiet, let out a soft, dreamy sigh. "Okay. I take back what I said. We were built to handle that." Goddess tier pussy unlocked. I laughed out loud, startling Cade as he dozed off beside me. "What?" he murmured groggily. "Nothing," I said, smiling to myself. "Just basking in victory." He chuckled, pulling me closer. And in his arms, I let go of everything else. Cade's POV waking up beside Camilla was like waking inside a dream I hadn't realized I'd been having for years. Her room was bathed in soft morning light. Pale gold filtered through sheer curtains, casting delicate shadows across the bed and her bare shoulder, where the blanket had slipped down just enough to make me swallow hard. She was curled into me, one hand splayed across my chest, her breath slow and even. It made something ancient stir in me. Something protective. Territorial. I didn't want to move. So I laid there, watching the fan spin lazy circles on the ceiling and listening to the soft sound of her breath until she stirred. Her lashes fluttered, and then she blinked up at me, disoriented for a second. Then realization dawned. "Good morning, sir," she breathed. "Good morning, mate," I said gently. She stared at me a moment longer, and I couldn't tell if she was about to bolt or bury herself under the blankets. Instead, she whispered, "I drooled on your arm." I grinned, replying, "And I wore it like a badge of honor." Her lips twitched. "That's so unladylike, so embarrassing." I smoothed a curl away from her cheek. "After what we did last night, a little drool is nothing." She stared at me horrified. "I'd say you were past ladylike," I murmured, then let out a laugh. She tried to cover her face in shame. Then her stomach growled. Loudly. We both blinked, then laughed, really laughed. The kind that shook our shoulders. "Well," I said, sitting up and stretching, "sounds like it's time for breakfast." "I can make something," she offered, gathering the blanket around herself like a toga queen as she sat up. I raised a brow. "Can you?" She narrowed her eyes. "I am perfectly capable of providing nourishment, thank you." "Oh, I know," I said. She rolled her eyes, then jumped out of bed and headed towards the bathroom to shower. I gave her a mock scandalized look. "You let me ravish you senseless," she laughed again, the sound so pure and unguarded it made my chest ache. 20 minutes later, we were in her kitchen, and I was wearing nothing but my jeans while she shuffled around in a long cardigan and fuzzy socks. She cracked eggs into a bowl with laser precision, not a single drop of shell in sight. I chopped up peppers and onions like a man on a mission. When I reached over her to grab the butter, my chest brushed her back. She froze. So did I. Then she exhaled, leaned into me and whispered, "Sir, I need you to behave yourself, or the food will burn." I grinned, leaned down to brush a kiss to the back of her neck. "If the food burns, we'll order breakfast." She went very still, her breath catching. Then she whispered, "You're distracting." We ate breakfast at her kitchen island, knees brushing beneath. She made French press coffee strong enough to wake the dead and added 4 tablespoons of sugar to my cup with a splash of half and half, before sliding it across to me. "You remember how I like it," I said. Of course I remembered. That's not forgettable. I studied her. Then the curve of her collarbone, the soft way she held the mug, and the shadows under her eyes because we barely got any sleep. "What are you thinking?" she asked when she caught me watching. "That I like mornings better with you in them." She looked away, but not before I saw the blush rise in her cheeks. Later, I washed the dishes while she towel-dried beside me. There was something deeply domestic about it. When she bumped her hip against mine, I reached for her hand with a soapy grin. She tried to pull away, but I caught her, smearing wet bubbles on her nose. "Kate! Camilla!" She laughed and splashed a bit of water at my chest. That led to a full-on, poorly contained splash war until she called truce and leaned into me, breathless and wet-faced, eyes bright. I wrapped my arms around her, resting my chin on the top of her head again. "Don't you have to be at the Alpha's office soon?" she whispered. "Nope. They know how to contact me if anyone is looking for me. Needless to say, I have a strong suspicion they know where I am." I kissed her temple. She was silent for a long beat. "Now that you've been nourished and regained your strength, I think we need to continue," she said seductively. "I agree." She nodded, and I picked her up in my arms bridal style and walked back into her bedroom. Barefoot, chest wet and arms wrapped around each other like the world outside didn't exist. And for a little while it didn't. Camilla's POV Monday morning, I had woken to the sound of my alarm ringing incessantly at the side of my bed. I blinked sleepily and checked the time. Fuck! I was going to be late. I threw the covers off and jumped out of bed grunting loudly as the soreness from the previous activities rippled through my aching muscles. I took a few steps across the bedroom floor, waddling to the bathroom to take a hot shower to soothe my muscles. I was truly trying to focus on the donor report spread out across my desk. But it was hard to concentrate on fiscal year projections when every muscle in my body still ached from the weekend. The very enthusiastic, thoroughly ruinous weekend I had spent with Cade. My legs were still mad at me. My back had filed a complaint. And my pelvis? My pelvis had ghosted me. Emotionally unavailable. Left the group chat. I sat gingerly in my chair, shifting like someone twice my age, and stared blankly at the budget spreadsheet on my laptop. And that's when she decided to speak. "Camilla." "No, Serafina. Don't start." "Camilla, my dearest soul sibling. It is Monday. And yet our loins still sing with victory. I'm going to pretend you didn't just say loins in a sentence directed at me. Our womb is thriving. Our aura is radiant. Our bed frame? Possibly injured but spiritually enlightened." I buried my face in my hands. "Please. I'm at work. So is our uterus, technically. Still processing the impact." I groaned out loud. The door to my office was thankfully closed, or one of the Omega nannies would have mistaken that sound for a mild stroke. Serafina wasn't done. "Did you see how he marked us? Precision. Passion. A love bite from the goddess. We're basically royalty now. Made-ified. Pack certified. Thick thigh justified. You need help." Oh, I had help. In the form of one very large, very determined gamma-grade certified stallion. I slapped a hand on my desk and hissed. "I'm trying to work. And I'm trying to relive the way his hands gripped our ass like a life preserver in a hurricane. Let me have this." I wheezed and leaned back in my chair, staring at the ceiling like the LED lights might suck me into another dimension. Serafina sniffed dramatically. "You're just mad because you're still walking like you lost a bet with gravity." I sat up straighter, only for a dull throb in my thighs to remind me exactly why I couldn't deny her logic. "We are never doing 4 rounds in one night again. Camilla, my sweet cinnamon roll. We both know that's a lie." We said "one more time," and then did it 3 more times. You sounded like a songbird with a megaphone. My entire face went hot. You sat back while I endured the pain. Just watched. Watched. I had pom-poms. I was cheering. I wrote a sonnet. I almost had a banner flown over the roof that said, "Go Camilla, get that wolf D." I choked on my own spit. There was a knock at the door. I froze. Ah, yes. It creaked open and Savani, one of the Omega caretakers working at the orphanage, peeked in, raising a brow. "Everything okay in here? Sounded like you were dying." I waved a hand. "Nope. Just a deep cough and a fight with Google Sheets." "Carry on." She narrowed her eyes like she didn't buy it, but nodded and pulled the door shut. I waited exactly 3 seconds before whispering, "You're going to get me fired." "Puffed. Please. You're a mated she-wolf now. To one of the Alpha's best friends. To one of his closest gammas. To that muscle-bound soldier of our loins." I sighed, slumped deeper into my chair, and finally let the spreadsheet fade into the background as I stared dreamily out the window. The memory of Cade's lips on my neck. His arms locked around my waist. The look in his eyes when I'd asked him to mark me. Yeah, okay. Maybe Serafina wasn't totally wrong. "He growled when he came," she said wistfully. "I know. It was melodic. I want it as a ringtone." "No you don't. I want his 'Oh fuck Camilla' on a loop." I snorted and covered my mouth. "Do you think we can casually request a rematch tonight? Like, 'Hey babe, let's Netflix and see if your mating mark glows when you hit it from behind?' Serafina." I shouted out loud, then clapped my hands over my mouth. Another knock. "Camilla." This time it was Lila, another of the Omega caretakers. "Do you need water? Or anything?" I tried to sound normal. "Nope. Just passionate about budgeting." There was a pause. "Okay, well, we're making pasta with the kids." "Love that. Go pasta." The door closed again. I collapsed forward onto my desk and groaned into my arms. "We are a soldier, Camilla. A triumphant she-wolf. Mate marked, back blown, still sore. What a time to be alive." I laughed quietly and shook my head. "You're out of control. I'm just finally unleashed. And you, my darling, are glowing. You smell like satisfaction and permanent pelvic damage." And I couldn't be prouder. I sat up, staring at the spreadsheet again. It was just a sea of numbers at this point, but in the margins of my mind, all I could see was Cade, and feel the echo of him still inside me, in more ways than one. Cade's POV. Logan's office was dead quiet, just the sound of the occasional sip of coffee. The usual low buzz of casual chatter between the guys had been replaced with something worse. Smirks. Knowing, smug, evil little smirks. Nicholas leaned back in his chair, twirling a pen between his fingers like he'd been rehearsing for this moment all morning. Maddox sat cross-legged on the couch, sipping tea like a Victorian duchess. Theron looked like a kid trying not to explode from excitement. Logan was too quiet, that calm alpha smile stretching just a little too wide. They knew. All of them knew. I didn't say a damn word. Just stood near the bookshelves like maybe if I held real still, they'd talk about something else. Nicholas, naturally, was the first to break the silence. "So," he drawled, stretching the word out like it was the punchline to a joke. "Brother, I see you finally let Camilla come up for some air?" Logan snorted into his coffee. And just like that, the room erupted. Laughter boomed around me. Deep belly laughs, table slaps, shoulder nudges. Maddox damn near choked on his drink. Theron flopped backward on the rug like he couldn't function from the sheer comedy of it. I just stood there, arms crossed, trying not to grin. Tried being the key word. Nicholas wiped a fake tear from the corner of his eye. "Seriously, man, we thought you two had gone feral. I checked the cameras yesterday to make sure the walls were still standing." "Bro," Maddox added with a shake of his head. "I walked past her building once and I swear I heard the entire building cry for help." "Shut up," I muttered, but the grin was already spreading across my face. "Y'all act like you wouldn't have done the exact same thing if you'd mated someone like Camilla." Theron popped up suddenly, squinting hard. "Speaking of," he said, tilting his head, "you got something on your neck, man." I blinked. "What?" Maddox narrowed his eyes with exaggerated focus. "Oh yeah, I see it too. A little ink. Is that a new tattoo, Cade? A tiny little mark that says, 'Taken by a woman smarter and stronger than me?'" The room broke into laughter again. Before I could react, Theron leapt forward like a damn squirrel on espresso. "Let me see," he crowed, grabbing my chin and tilting my head sharply to the side. "The fuck? Theron." "Oh ho," he declared, examining my neck. "Yep. That's a mark, all right. Good edges, bold bite pattern, subtle bruising. Yeah, that's a Camilla classic. Clean work." I swatted his hand away, grinning despite myself. Theron stepped back and crossed his arms. Then, voice suddenly serious, he said, "Looks good, man. Congrats." That one word cut through the laughter, and the room shifted. Softer now. Logan stood, crossing the room toward me with a knowing nod. "So she's been properly marked?" he asked. I held his gaze and nodded. "Yeah, she's my mate now." Logan smiled, genuine and warm. "Good. She's smart, funny, and exactly what you needed to balance your sadistic ass." Maddox raised his tea like a toast. "To Cade, the first brother brave enough to get taken off the market." "I didn't get taken," I said, laughing. "I volunteered." "Oh, sure," Nicholas teased. "That's what they all say. Next thing you know, you're wearing matching outfits and planning pack yoga classes." "You're an idiot," I muttered. "You're in love," he countered, pointing at me. "Which makes you a dangerous idiot." "I think we need a party," Maddox declared, rising to his feet. "This is a cause for celebration." Nicholas nodded. "Agreed. One of the wolves has fallen to love. It's tradition. Bonfire. Booze. Embarrassing speeches. Let's make it happen." Logan scratched his chin thoughtfully. "I'll ask Marta to organize something this weekend. Something small. I'm sure Camilla is not going to want a huge festivity." My stomach dropped. I rubbed the back of my neck. "Yeah, about that. I need to talk to Dante and Naima before we throw confetti and roast marshmallows." "Because you marked their baby sister without asking for permission?" Nicholas asked innocently. I glared at him. "It wasn't like that. It just happened." "Oh, I'm sure it did," he smirked. "So fast you forgot about the part where an 8-foot lichen brother might rip your arms off for sport." Maddox winced. "Dante's claws alone are longer than your fingers." Theron chuckled, slapping my shoulder. "You're gonna die." "You guys are real supportive," I muttered. Nicholas leaned back, hands behind his head. "Just saying, if I mated Naima without talking to Dante first, I'd already be fertilizer." "Do you think he'll kill me?" I asked. The room went dead quiet for half a second. Then Theron and Maddox both shrugged at the same time. "Maybe just one arm," Maddox said helpfully. "You've got two," Theron added. "It's fine. He's practical." I threw my hands up. "Unbelievable." Logan just laughed, clapping me on the back. "He won't kill you. Not if you tell him soon. Be honest. Be respectful when you do it." Nicholas held up a hand. "Want us to come with you? Offer emotional support." "No," I grunted. "If he's gonna kill me, I'd rather not have witnesses." Maddox reached into his back pocket and pulled out a marker. "Should we write your last words on your arm? Tell Camilla you died bravely." "Tell Camilla nothing. She'll only blame herself and kill Dante in return." "That's the spirit," Theron laughed. "You guys are practically married already." Despite the teasing, I felt my chest warm. Because they were happy for me. Truly. These assholes, who'd seen me through every dark corner of my life, were celebrating the one good, beautiful, unexpected thing that had taken root in it. Camilla. Her laugh. Her fierce little frowns. The way she whispered my name like it was something sacred. I felt my smile pull wider. Nicholas narrowed his eyes. "He's doing it again." "What?" "That smile. Look at him." Nicholas pointed dramatically. "Cade. Brooder of all things dark and sadistic. Smiling. Grinning like a damn pup who just got belly rubs." "You're all insufferable," I muttered. But damn if I didn't feel 10 feet tall walking out of that room. Later that evening, I stood just outside Dante and Ayala's townhouse. I stared at the door for a full minute. Jackson, my wolf, paced in my chest like a damn prison riot. "Let's get it over with. Rip the Band-Aid off. Or the head. Whichever." I knocked. Dante opened the door, filling the entire frame. He smiled. "Hey, Cade," he said. I blinked. "Hi. You got a minute?" Naima appeared behind him, eyebrows raised. "Oh shit. Both of them were here." "Great." "Sure," Dante said slowly, stepping aside. "Come in." I walked in like a man marching toward his execution. It felt like I was walking into a den of death. Not the honorable battle kind. Not even the torn apart by rogue wolves kind. No, this was the special kind of death that came from telling an 8-foot lichen warrior that I'd mated and marked his baby sister without asking permission. Dante and Ayala's townhouse was warm and peaceful, which only made things worse. There was a kettle whistling in the background, a flickering fire in the hearth, and a faint smell of cinnamon. I sat on the edge of the couch. Not leaned back, Not relaxed, just perching, hands on my knees, spine straight like I was being graded for posture. Naima sat across from me with her hands folded neatly in her lap, watching me like a cat watches a confused mouse. Dante took the armchair beside her, massive and quiet, sipping tea like he didn't kill people with his bare hands in his spare time. "So," Naima began, voice light. "How's Camilla?" "Ah, good," I said. "Really good. She's good." Naima smiled slowly. That's nice." Dante raised one eyebrow. "Are you okay? You look nervous." "Me?" I let out a weird, high-pitched laugh. "I'm good. Great. Totally at peace with my life choices." Dante stared. I cleared my throat. "So, I came here because there's something I need to tell you." Naima exchanged a glance with Dante. Jackson whispered in my head, "Just do it. Rip the Band-Aid. If we die, we die. But don't whimper it out. Camilla and I, we've, gotten close." Dante's expression didn't change. "I know." Naima nodded, smiling like a wolf with secrets. "She called me when she got home after your first date. She couldn't stop talking about how thoughtful you were, and all the things you planned for her." My heart pounded like a bass drum in my chest. I marked her. She is officially my mate. Silence. The fire crackled in the hearth. Dante didn't move. Not a blink. Not a twitch. Just that unreadable face. "You what?" he asked, so softly I thought I imagined it. "I marked her." I repeated. There was a pause. A long one. I could hear my own pulse screaming in my ears. Naima turned her head slightly toward her brother. "Dante." "Yeah," he replied, still not looking away from me. "Are you going to shift and rip him in half now or after tea?" Dante let out a long sigh through his nose. He set down his cup with slow, deliberate care. Then stood. I braced myself. My wolf braced. My soul braced. I wouldn't even have time to shift if he lunged. But instead of a punch to the gut or a claw to the face, Dante walked toward me, towering like a wall of death, and then stopped right in front of me. And stuck out his hand. "What?" I blinked. I stared at it like it might explode. Slowly, cautiously, I rose and took it. He gripped mine hard, like bone-grinding hard. Then he nodded. "Congratulations." "Wait, seriously?" Dante cracked a faint smile. "You think I didn't know this was coming? I've seen the way you look at her. Hell, I've seen the way she looks at you. It's like watching two magnets get dragged across a battlefield, loud, messy, and inevitable." Naima laughed softly. "I thought you'd kill me," I admitted, still in disbelief. He chuckled. "You make my baby sister happy. I know you would protect her with your life. And we all knew you two were in love with each other." I felt the pressure release in my chest. A knot I didn't realize was there, slowly unraveling. Naima chimed in, her voice softer. "Congratulations, Cade. Heads up, my sister can be a handful. But I know you can handle it." "I promise to protect her," I said quietly. "With everything I have." Dante nodded. "I know." Naima stood and walked over, pulling me into a hug before I could resist. "Just remember," she whispered in my ear, "if you ever hurt her, I will kill you." "Fair enough." She pulled back with a smirk. "Also, you'll need to tell Camilla you finally told us." "You guys knew already?" Naima shrugged. Dante chuckled behind her. "You guys are the worst. And yet you love us," Naima said sweetly. I groaned. True Camilla's POV. When Marta found out that Cade and I had officially mated, the woman nearly collapsed into a puddle of joyful sobs. "You mean to tell me you and Cade finally?" "Oh, sweet moon goddess, it's about damn time," she wailed, clutching her apron to her chest like a dramatic soap opera character. Marta pointed a wooden spoon in my direction like it was a royal scepter. "We are throwing a celebration. A proper pack one. With a feast. Music. Flowers," she snapped, already pulling out a stack of parchment and a pen. Serafina, of course, was delighted. She howled in my mind, "Can we get little glowing lanterns too?" "Oh, and something roasted on a spit. Preferably not a gopher." I ignored her. The next 3 days were chaotic, but in the best way possible. Marta was a force. There were pie crusts, hand-churned butter, infused honeys, 6 different marinades for grilled meats, and a suspicious amount of lavender oil being rubbed into every surface. At one point, I saw 2 elderly wolves arguing over whether the flower garlands should have moonflowers or night roses. Every corner of Shadow Fong grounds transformed. I tried to help, of course. That lasted all of 12 minutes. Absolutely not. Marta scolded, shooing me away with a rolling pin. Have you lost your mind? You don't lift a finger unless it's to toast your mate or point at something you want. Point at something? Marta. She winked and marched off to supervise flower placement. Cade disappeared for most of the second day. I assumed he was off helping with patrol shifts. Turns out I was wildly wrong. Logan let it slip at dinner, mid-chew of venison roast. He went to town to get something. Took Maddox with him. Came back grinning like an idiot. If it's a vibrating collar, we're going to have a serious talk, Serafina whispered in my head. I spat my water across the table. The night of the celebration was a dream. I stood in front of the mirror in the suite I now shared with Cade, dressed in a deep sapphire gown that hugged my waist and flowed like midnight mist around my feet. My hair was braided down my back, with little flecks of silver woven in like stars. The entire pack turned out, including Dante, Ayala and Naima. Wolves dressed in twilight colors, laughter echoing through the trees. The ceremonial flames burned bright, casting golden light over everything, and a soft mist settled just at the edge of the clearing, like even nature was watching in awe. When Cade stepped into the firelight, wearing his gamma formal attire, my knees almost buckled. He was beautiful. We met at the fire pit, hands joined, and Logan stood beside us, acting as officiant with his alpha presence radiating warmth and power. He looked between us and spoke, voice low and deep. In the eyes of the goddess and this pack, we gather to celebrate a bond forged in fire and love. 2 wolves. 2 hearts. 1 path forward. Cade reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. He opened it. I gasped softly. Ooh! A ring, Serafina cooed. A real shiny one. Inside was a stunning ring. An oval sapphire surrounded by a halo of small diamonds, all set in a band of white gold. It glowed under the firelight like a piece of midnight sky. He slipped it onto my finger with hands that trembled just slightly. I swallowed thickly, blinking back tears. You're my strength, Cade, I said. Even when you're burning toast. The crowd laughed gently. He smiled, eyes locked with mine. The extra crunch adds a bit of flavor. Logan raised his hands. By moon and flame, we welcome Camilla as the Gamma's mate. The cheer that went up shook the trees. Pups threw petals into the air, warriors howled toward the stars, and Marta burst into tears again while fanning herself with a plate. Then the celebration began. There was music, drums, strings, and wild flute melodies. Wolves danced barefoot in the grass, spinning and laughing. Plates overflowed with food. People toasted with glowing mugs of cider. Even the grumpy unmated warriors cracked smiles. I barely left Cade's side all night. He held my hand like I might disappear. Whispered things in my ear that made me blush. Took me dancing, then growled possessively when someone asked if I'd do the next round with them instead. He nuzzled my neck. You're mine. Finally, Logan pulled him away, giving other people a chance to talk to me. I spotted Cade across the way, talking to Dante and Naima. His eyes found me instantly. He excused himself and crossed the clearing, weaving through dancers like the only thing that mattered was getting to me. Hi, I said. Hi, he murmured. You having fun? I haven't stopped smiling for hours. Cade pulled me into his arms and rested his forehead against mine. Good. That's all I want. We danced slowly, swaying while the world spun around us. By the time the bonfire had burned low and the music had softened to a hum, Cade and I sat together on a bench near the edge of the celebration, watching our pack enjoy themselves. I never imagined this, I said quietly. What? This kind of joy. Peace. I thought it was something other people got to have. Not me. Cade took my hand. I leaned against his shoulder. I love you, I whispered. He kissed my forehead. I know. I love you too. Camilla's POV piece had finally settled over Shadow Fong territory like a well-worn blanket. With rogue threats silenced, new alliances budding, and the gala a month away, the pack had slipped into a steady rhythm. Meals, training, patrols, and rest, all harmonizing into something that felt like home. Even the orphanage was calm, the children flourishing in their studies and relationships. It made the effort worth it. Every late night. Every tough decision. That morning, I walked into Alpha Logan's office with my tablet in one hand and a steaming cup of mint tea in the other. The scent of cedar and coffee drifted around the room, the large oak desk cluttered with maps and reports. Logan looked up from a stack of papers and smiled at me. "You're right on time," he said, gesturing to the seat in front of him. "I brought the final quarterly update on the orphanage," I said, settling in and flipping open the binder. "The kids are doing great. We've seen a 30% improvement in reading comprehension, and our older teens, specifically Emmeline, Felix, Darnell and 13 others have volunteered to begin warrior training." Logan nodded with pride. "That's excellent news." Across the room, Cade was leaning against the wall near the fireplace, arms crossed, one ankle lazily propped over the other. His eyes hadn't left me since I entered. Not once. I glanced at him from the corner of my eye, trying to stay professional. Then his voice echoed smoothly in our bond. "You look so damn beautiful today, Camilla. The way that blouse hugs you? It's illegal. And if I wasn't stuck here, I'd have you bent over that desk doing very, very dirty things." I coughed mid-sentence and nearly dropped my tea. Logan glanced up. "You all right?" "Yes," I squeaked, scrolling to the next page on the tablet like it personally offended me. "Just some tea went down the wrong pipe." "Not the only thing going down later," Cade added through the bond, and I shot him a murderous look that only made him smirk harder. Serafina hummed in my head. "Honestly, let the man bend you over the desk. Do it for morale. You're not helping." "I'm not trying to help, babe. I'm trying to entertain myself." Before I could hurl my pen at my mate's smug face, Nicholas stepped inside with a tablet in hand. "Oh good, you're all here. Just a reminder, Cade, patrol tonight. You and me." Cade groaned. Loudly. "Seriously? That's tonight." Nicholas shrugged. "It's on the calendar. Don't blame me." I turned back to Logan. "Actually, can I join the patrol tonight?" Nicholas lifted a brow. "We could use another set of eyes. The more the merrier." Cade, however, went stiff. "No." The room quieted a beat. I slowly turned in my chair and stared at him. "Excuse me?" Cade stood straight. "I don't think that's a good idea." "Why not?" "It could be dangerous." I blinked. "Do you think I can't handle myself in danger?" "That's not what I'm saying." "Oh!" I crossed my arms. "So what exactly are you saying?" "I just want you safe." "All right." "Because clearly I miraculously became dainty after you marked me." Cade opened his mouth. Then closed it. "No. You're not dainty. It's just." He looked to Nicholas and Theron for help. "Guys! Help!" Nicholas stared intensely at his tablet screen. Theron began whistling and examined the ceiling like it held the secrets of the universe. Serafina let out a long, slow cackle. "Oh, this is delicious." I stood and walked over to Cade, lifting my chin defiantly. "Since you think I can't handle danger, maybe we should spar sometime. Just so you can see how dainty I am." He groaned. "That's not what I meant, and you know it." Maddox took one look at our faces and burst out laughing. Cade shot him a glare. "Not helping." Logan sighed with a chuckle, folding his arms behind his desk. Now. You too." "I'm not throwing anything," I said sweetly, brushing invisible lint off my shirt. "Unless he keeps implying I need a bubble wrap suit and a leash." Nicholas finally snorted. "I say let her come." I smirked. "I'll make sure to be extra dainty about it. I'll even wear heels. At the very least, you can watch me tiptoe dramatically around the border in human form. It might be the highlight of my month." Maddox cackled. Cade's eyes glinted, flashing with rook's silver. And just as suddenly I felt Serafina shift behind my eyes, her energy rising in return like flame to gasoline. Logan raised his hands. "Okay, enough. No posturing, no shifting. This is an office, not a cage match." "Don't mind these two," Nicholas added. "This is their foreplay." I turned, done with the entire testosterone parade, and walked to the door. "I'll see you boys on patrol," I said breezily. "And Cade?" He straightened, wary. I smirked. "Keep that same energy for later tonight." Then I winked and walked out, hips swaying slightly for maximum effect. As the door shut behind me, I heard Cade mutter, "That woman is going to age me before my time. But I love it. I love her." Serafina sighed dreamily. "That idiot is ours. Let's never let him go." The forest at night had its own rhythm. A slow, pulsing heartbeat under the hush of moonlight and whispering leaves. The air was cool but not cold, fragrant with pine needles, moss, and wildflowers only brave enough to bloom after dark. Shadows stretched long and lazy across the path as the moon hung full and watchful above the trees, casting a silver glow over everything. Shifting into my dire wolf form before we reached the forest edge. I walked just ahead of Rook, Seraphina's large paws crunching softly over the dirt trail along the northern edge of the territory. We were technically on patrol, but everything was quiet. No signs of rogues or trespassers, not even a curious raccoon sniffing around the perimeter. Rook had been unusually silent since we left the compound, his tall muscular frame walking just close enough that I could feel his warmth. Every so often, I'd glance over my shoulder to catch him watching me with that adoring expression. Overprotective gamma mode activated. Of course, I couldn't resist poking the bear. You know, I said lightly through our bond, I'm still waiting for this so-called danger you were so worried about. He snorted softly. Give it a minute. It's been 47 of them, I teased. So far the most dangerous thing I've encountered is a very aggressive patch of poison ivy. Which I avoided, thank you very much. You say that now, but wait till you run into a particularly opinionated goose. Oh, so that's the rogue threat these days? Absolutely, he said with a perfectly straight face. They hiss. They bite. No mercy. Shadow Fong has had 2 delicious goose dinners due to a goose ambush. I laughed. You're the worst. I've been told. We paused at a small clearing, where the moonlight poured between the trees like liquid silver. Rook stopped beside Seraphina and looked up. His expression softened in the moonlight, shadows outlining the sharp lines of his jaw and the scar on his brow. His eyes, usually so fierce, looked almost gentle. Beautiful night. So beautiful it could be dangerous, I said in a light sarcastic tone. There was a beat of silence. Then a low, amused growl echoed through the bond. I am the danger. Rook's voice rumbled through me. Wickedly playful. I grinned. I see, I murmured. Danger it is. Seraphina burst forward with a gleeful howl, her silver-white coat shimmering under the moon's light. Across from her, Rook, massive midnight dark, with piercing amber eyes stalked out of the shadows like a king of the woods. They circled one another slowly, tails flicking, paws silent over the leaves. A shared, unspoken rhythm in their movements, as if their souls were already familiar. Then, Seraphina did something that stunned even me. She bowed, tail wagging playfully, her ears low but her eyes bright with challenge. Catch me if you can. Rook rumbled in response before lunging toward me. They tore through the woods, weaving between the trees in a blur of speed and laughter and wolfish joy. Their paws pounded the earth in sync, 2 spirits made of night and moonlight, colliding and teasing and challenging each other. There were no words needed between them. When they finally slowed, panting and circling one another again, Rook brushed his muzzle to mine. A soft nudge. Seraphina returned it, leaning into him for just a second longer than necessary. And just like that, they began to shift back to our human forms. Bones cracked. Limbs lengthened. Fur melted into skin under the gentle hush of the night. I blinked, my eyes adjusting, and there he was. Cade, bare and beautiful, standing in the clearing as the moonlight painted his skin in silver and shadows. His eyes were fixed on me like I was the only thing in existence. Your trouble, I murmured, breath catching in my throat. And you're still the most dangerous thing out here, he said, stepping forward. You wrecked me, Camilla. I reached for him at the same time he reached for me, our bodies drawn together with a magnetism that was no longer new but still felt urgent, consuming. He kissed me slow and hungry, like he had all night and no intention of rushing. His hands skimmed my waist, slid down to the curve of my hips as he lowered us to the soft, moss-covered earth. I lay back beneath him, the moon watching, the forest bearing witness. The feel of his mouth on my skin was reverent. His kisses traced the curve of my neck, the valley between my breasts, down to my belly. Every inch of me hummed, stretched tight with heat and tenderness. Cade moved above me, his body warm and solid, the scent of pine and sweat and need curling in my nose. He held my face gently, brushing my hair out of my eyes. Tell me if you want to stop, he whispered. I'll kick you if I do, I replied. He grinned. And then we weren't talking anymore. His body moved with mine like he already knew the rhythm of my soul. Every thrust was deep, deliberate, his hands anchoring me like I might float away. I wrapped my legs around his waist and clung to him, breathless, moaning into the crook of his neck as stars blurred overhead. When I finally shattered around him, crying out into the quiet night, Cade followed me with a low, guttural groan, his body trembling above mine as he came, anchoring himself with one hand buried in my hair and the other clutching my hip like I was his lifeline. We lay tangled in each other for what felt like hours, our breaths slowly returning to normal, our skin cooling in the breeze. Eventually, I rolled onto my side and faced him, brushing my fingers over his chest. "So, this what you meant by danger?" He chuckled, pulling me closer. "Absolutely. The best kind." I rested my head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat thrum beneath my ear. Under the stars, in the stillness of the woods, it felt like the safest place in the world. The wind rustled through the trees, leaves dancing overhead. An owl hooted somewhere in the distance. The scent of wild jasmine drifted through the air. "You know," I murmured after a while, "you were a total ass in Logan's office earlier." He groaned. "I'm sorry. You told everyone I was dainty." "I did not say that. You implied it. I just didn't want you out here if there was a threat," he grumbled. "You distract me. I'll be looking at you instead of the border, and then I'll get mauled by a very aggressive goose." I snorted. "So really I'm the danger." "Exactly. I'm flattered." "Good. Because I like danger." His voice dropped into something rougher, hungrier. "Especially when it looks like you, with your moonlit curls and smart mouth." I closed my eyes, pressing my cheek to his chest. His heartbeat was steady and strong. "We're going to have to retire in the woods," I said. "I require moonlight, dramatic declarations, and at least one aggressive goose as a guard." "Noted." Eventually we resumed patrol. Our steps synchronized, moving quietly beneath the trees. The rest of the territory was still as calm as when we'd started, but my heart was anything but. Logan's POV. The scent hit me before I even opened the door. Earthy sweat, pine, and something wild and electric that could only ever be her. I stepped into our room just as the sound of water splashing faintly echoed from the bathroom. Alara was humming softly behind the door, no doubt drawing the bath I asked her to prepare. My eyes fell to Zuria, who stood near the armoire with her back to me, peeling off her sweat-drenched sports bra. Her toned shoulders glistened, marked with dirt, reminders of her session with Dante. I leaned back against the wall near the door, arms folded, and just watched. Her muscles moved like coiled steel under skin, worn from exertion, yet somehow still graceful. She wasn't just beautiful. She was fierce. Power pulsed off her like heat from a fire, even as she struggled to pull one sneaker off, wobbling for balance and letting out a quiet, exhausted groan. A smirk crept across my face. "Goddess help me," I thought. "She's my weakness." The bathroom door opened with a soft creak. Alara stepped out, her sleeves rolled up and hands damp with lavender and wild mint oils. She startled slightly when she saw me, then bowed her head quickly. "Alpha Logan," she greeted. I gave her a short nod, eyes still on Zuria. Alara's gaze flicked to Zuria, and her expression softened into a smile before she murmured, "The bath is ready. I used the blend your mother preferred after full moon runs." Zuria turned at that, offering Alara a grateful smile that nearly undid me. "Thank you, Alara," she said, voice hoarse but sweet. Alara bowed once more and silently exited, gently pulling the door closed behind her. I pushed off the wall and took a slow step forward. Zuria raised a brow, hands still on the waistband of her leggings. "Enjoying the show?" she asked dryly. "Absolutely," I said, my voice low and rough with truth. "But not just because you're undressing. I saw a glimpse of your training. You were magnificent." She snorted. "I feel like a tenderized steak. My shoulders are screaming, my thighs are numb, and my back needs a good cracking." I chuckled and crossed the room. "Come here." Before she could protest, I swept her up into my arms. She gasped in surprise, instinctively wrapping her arms around my neck. "Logan, you don't have to." "Shush, I know." "I want to." She didn't argue further. Her head fell against my chest as I carried her to the bathroom, the scent of steam and herbs already thick in the air. The tub Alara prepared was full, the surface dancing with soft bubbles and flecks of wild rosemary, lavender, and crushed chamomile. I gently lowered Zuria into the water. The moment her body sank beneath the surface, she let out a long, drawn-out moan of pure relief. That sound. It wasn't even sexual, but my wolf, Jackson, growled low in my chest anyway. Touch her. Take her. Make her moan again. She's sore. She needs rest, not rutting, I answered silently. Still, the water hugged her curves too perfectly. The way her head leaned back, the way her lashes fluttered with pleasure. It took every ounce of control I had, not to join her in that water and take her apart again. Instead, I knelt at the edge and pressed my thumbs gently into her shoulders. She moaned through her teeth. That feels amazing. That means it's working, I murmured, massaging in small, firm circles. You're holding tension from your upper back through your lats. Dante wasn't playing. Uncle Dante never plays, she muttered. I worked my way down, loosening tight knots with practiced care. She melted under my hands, body going limp, breath slow and deep. After several minutes, I dipped a soft cloth into the water and began to wash her. Her arms, her collarbone, the dirt and sweat from her training, gently wiped away with every stroke. She barely reacted, eyes heavy, letting me tend to her like she deserved to be tended to. I should probably, she murmured sleepily, get out soon. Not yet, I said, stroking her cheek. Soak. You earned this. She gave the tiniest nod and leaned her head back against the curve of the tub. The room was quiet, save for the gentle swish of water. She looked like a fallen warrior finally allowed to rest. After a moment, her lips parted. How was your day today? I smiled and settled beside the tub, resting my arms on the rim. Handled patrol rotations. Signed off on the new rogue integration schedule. Settled a dispute between two vendors about sheep fencing, of all things. And reviewed a report about another missing hunter near the river ridge. Her hum was soft, low. I glanced down at her. Eyes closed. Breathing deep. A faint smile on her lips. Sleeping. I chuckled quietly, running a finger along her jaw. You couldn't even make it through the sheep story, huh? I grabbed a thick, warm towel and lifted her from the water as gently as I could. She didn't stir, not even a twitch. I wrapped her up, dried her off, and carried her back to our room. She was boneless in my arms, soft and completely trusting. I laid her on the bed and pulled the covers up to her chin. She sighed at the shift in warmth, but didn't open her eyes. Marta, I mind-linked. Zuria's down for the count. Can you have her dinner plated and set aside? She might wake up hungry later. Of course, Alpha. I'll leave it covered on the warmer. I thanked her and sent her a quick mental image of a tray of the roast she liked. Marta always understood the assignment. I dimmed the lights and finally crawled into bed beside Zuria. The moment the mattress dipped under my weight, her body stirred and then curled into mine like she belonged there. I wrapped my arm around her, pressed my face into her damp curls, and held her tighter. Jackson purred deep in my chest, content for once. And in the quiet dark, with Zuria sleeping soundly in my arms, I finally allowed myself to rest.